Well, it's 6 o'clock. Good evening, y'all. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 6:02.
Is this going?
We're going to call this meeting to order. 6:02 p.m. I don't even know today's date. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you, Lord, for all that you do for us. Lord, we ask that our biggest need here, Lord, is rain, Lord, and your blessing and your guidance, Lord. Through this meeting, Lord, I ask that you just guide our citizens and our board members to make wise decisions, Lord, that are of you, Lord, and best interest of Kinney County. Lord, once again, we thank you for all you do. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So my first time running a meeting, so bear with me. Matt's not here tonight. He couldn't make it, so I'm running 90 miles an hour and doing this too, so bear with me. If I mess up on anything, just be a little forgiving. All right, so we're moving on to agenda item number 4, which will be the Director and Public Comments. Oh, okay. Is that a quorum? Yeah. So, BJ Eckenrod present, Blake Ward present, Stan Conley's here, Randy Scott's here, Charlie Gaines, Martell's. Got it. So, we have a quorum. Okay, agenda item number 4, Director and Public Comments. We have a public comment form from Miss Elizabeth Hodges.
I always try to talk about so you have it in the minutes. Okay, I'm always trying to educate myself, and so I recently I was terribly confused about who can run for an office on the Groundwater District and then which ones you can vote for, because it's different than when we vote for county commissioners, as you know. And so I began to check the district website. So what this says is, I've been checking the district website and I could not find where it explains the requirements for running for each position, precinct or at large, and also which precinct or at large candidate we are permitted to vote for. I've also studied the map for the division of each precinct and realized, which I was totally ignorant of, that each quadrant or precinct has rural, but the majority of the registered voters either come from the city or Fort Clark in each one of those precincts, which I was completely unaware of. Most citizens I speak with are confused about it, and I was certainly confused about it myself. I believe that as a Precinct 4 resident, that I could run for MUD at large and county at large, but I can't run for Precinct 4, even though I do reside in there, because it has to be a person that's rural. And I didn't realize you were my representative.
Yes,
I had no idea. See, I've educated myself. And so I began to think that it would be really good to have it on. People are very confused. I don't think I've talked to a single person, about 100 people. I kind of canvassed, and I go, I'm not really sure. And so when I did look it up on the website, it lists the staff and the directors, but it's not spaced right, so I couldn't tell who was Precinct 4 and who wasn't. It was just very confusing. So I thought clarity on this information is vital to the citizenry who will vote in the next election. And I'm requesting, of course you don't have to grant it, that the Kinney County Groundwater District update the website with this information as soon as possible, and maybe include it on the March agenda, and each one of you, have it explained. You know, if you live in Precinct 4, but you're in the fort, here's what you can vote for and here's what you can run for. If you live in the city and you're in Precinct 1, what can you vote for? Because it's terribly confusing. So that's the end of my speech.
You confused me.
It does confuse you?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask something? Say something?
I don't need an answer now.
Well, no, I want to give it so everybody can have it.
Huh?
I want to give it so everybody can have it.
Well, no, right, but
It
not
is-
now. Put it in writing.
I'll be
please.
glad to put it in
It's
writing.
on the website.
Yeah, I'm also going to.
But go ahead and give it, but please put it in writing.
It's on our website.
It is on the website.
Okay, that'd be great if you'll address where it is. No
I'll be
one's
glad to put it
no
in
one's criticizing anybody, but I couldn't find
We
it.
have had 2 or 3 different ones that called the office and were very appreciative that it was in there because it explains the whole thing. You know.
Right. Do you know what section it's under?
Directors and staff.
Huh?
Directors and staff.
I couldn't find it.
Right
It's-
up on my computer.
It's hidden way down, I guess, because I looked for it.
No.
Okay, well,
It's been on there
okay.
since you brought it up the
Sorry.
last time.
it would be nice to have it more easily, and he said it's a bit confusing, so it'd be very nice to have it in a much more easy place to find.
It's been on there since you brought it up the last time.
No, I only brought up who represented what. That's not what I'm asking.
And we did a full deal of it.
Okay.
Any director comments?
Not for me.
All right. Moving on. Item number 5. Discussion and possible action, approval of minutes from January regular meeting.
Make the motion report. I'll second.
Motion to approve made by Charlie Gaines and second made by Stan Conley. Item 6.
No,
Vote. All in favor.
I did that one. I've already been there and done that, so
Yeah.
I know.
It's a learning
It
experience.
really is, yes.
Item number 6, discussion and possible action, financial statements for January 2024.
Total income, January, $89,484.40. Year to date, $401,724.74. Total expenses for January, $48,439.52. Expenses year to date, $182,899.03. If it's legal, I'll make a motion, we accept these financial statements.
I'll second.
Second.
The percentage on the tax pool is wrong.
They didn't get changed from the investment report. Yeah. What's on the investment report is what's on the investment report is correct.
Yeah.
You had asked last time that I instead of various.
But on this, I don't know what the .0002627. I don't know what that means. But anyway, yeah, that's the only discussion. Motion and second. What comes after motion and second?
Call for a vote.
I know, I was looking over what you were talking about. If you brought it to attention, I was looking it over.
Give him time to look at it.
I'm not as fast as some people, all right?
You're fast enough.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any of those approved or disapproved? Item 7, review monthly investment officer's report. I guess I'll fall underneath that category too. Did Laud ever make contact or not?
Mm-hmm.
He did.
He did. And I will probably, For next month's agenda, I'll have something on here about maybe moving some money out of probably our money market here. Banking bracket into another CD and initially when I had talked to Mr. Lott that if we started it next month their rates would be about what First State, maybe a little bit higher. First State Valley. So I was thinking if we go like that because of what we've got in the money market up here, maybe 150,000 transfer over to a CD with a lot at Texan or with Texan Banking, one of the two. I'm sure that's the same, but I'll have that on the agenda item next month.
That was just a review item. Item 8, discussion possible action, invoices received and invoices paid.
Here's 20,000 is gym
Yes, sir.
instrumentation.
How are we doing on the line item that added last year? Do you have that in your report? You want to wait on that? Maybe under
Okay. Jim's is okay. We split it. We split it out this year in the budget. We've got down about 4 from the bottom. We've got equipment for monitor wells and other wells, and you can see that's what we've spent this year. And then science is just actually Jim's work. And then a couple of ones below above that professional fees. That's just Dr. Bill. So we're doing good on that as far as our equipment and his work and so forth. Level of the budget. Did that answer you?
when are they planning on being back?
Probably be in March sometime. Late March, first week.
That 28,000 who was asking about?
Yeah.
And it's not released yet. I probably shouldn't talk about it too much, but I was very impressed with the formulation of the app. I came in here one day and we're catching up on something, and he had it pull up on the screen there. And whenever it comes out, it's going to be, I don't know if you've had a chance to visit with him about it, but it's very impressive. I mean, it's really going to streamline the locations and everything else. And of course, on the meters. And I know that Marty's been working with them on that too. They put in a lot of hours getting all that going.
She spent lots of time out in the field. Lots of time out in the field.
Can I ask a question? On that app, does it have each well with a GPS on it? Is that how it designates which well you're reporting?
And then, like, you can, what I was impressed with is you can click by your permit number, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then it pulls up every well that's related to that.
Yeah.
And then the meter reading that you can put in right there. It just kind of streamlines everything. And we're even going to try and take it in a couple of years, another step to where it's even easier. And so, but I'm not a tech savvy guy, but I was like, this is all right. So we were able to, there was an old well somewhere in the county that I was able to locate that they had seen that was an abandoned well. And I was like, well, it's right here. And he was like, we didn't even know about that. So they were able to go out there and visit that one. And so it was really neat. So, of course, Jim, he's like, man, you come in here, save me 4 hours worth of time. And I'm like, well, we just need to get together and get it all done. So, but they are working hard on that.
Yeah, they've been really putting in the time out on the field. I personally took them to a spring they had heard about but hadn't seen. I took them to Strickland Springs while we were out. Very interesting guys, and they're working very hard at this.
Where is Strickland Springs?
It's on our ranch
Okay.
down Pinto Creek.
Never heard of it.
Beth Ann knows where it is, right?
No, I don't know where it is.
It's got a little water, it has a little water in it.
Yep.
It's dry? Completely.
Well, you can, there's like an armadillo hole or a badger hole there. You
Oh,
can look
okay.
down in it and see
Yeah.
water. It's right there on the banks, you know.
Yeah.
It's just right below. We're going to try to open it up and put a sensor in there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's in our plan.
Have you seen, I mean, y'all getting emails on the data on what he's already collecting over there? Or was he showing me that? And it was just like, it was amazing just having the monitor over there at the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Sensor that's
And
that's
then
spraying.
not only that, they were able to put the probe into the mud well.
Mhm.
And that's,
This is a mud well.
They had to have
Really?
because of the configuration of the mud well setup, they had to have a probe or transducer made just for, it had to be small enough, because so that was good that they were able to get that done. And then also the city well up by the water tower up there, you had to have a special one made for it, so it was good to go ahead and get a monitoring on that too.
I like the way they're going to every well and they're marking it with their paint marker. You know, they're marking
Yes.
the well number, and it correlates with your permit and everything.
Very professional.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And
You-
we have a well that we have 2 meters on, so they thought there were 2 permits there, and it said no, we have a meter on the irrigation well,
Mhm.
and then we also meter the artesian flow coming out of that well when it's not going to the pivot. So, you know, they got to see that it wasn't,
Yeah.
that it wasn't 2 permits, it was just one well.
Okay.
So that was good. But they you really appreciate them. They're professional and doing a really good job.
Good.
so we're on discussion, possible action of invoices received, invoices paid.
Do we need a motion on that? Oh, make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Director Conley and seconded by Director Schott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any of those opposed? All right. Number 9. Review TWDB Drought Index and other monitoring sites.
We've got to get some work done on our computers when we try to print our copy machine. Both of them are set on color, but they're not
That's
reading
not,
color.
you can
So
kind of
there's,
see
we
it.
tried to bring the
Yeah.
whole system down and kind of reset it. That didn't work, so there's some little glitch in there that we've got to,
No, he-
we got to, okay. We checked the heat first, and yes, both machines are plugged in.
So it's the second to last page. That's the new code, isn't it? can see it's past January
That's the Los Moras.
Any questions on that?
Good.
All right, moving on to item number 10. We're going to have a committee report from Mr. Gaines, Director Gaines.
Well, excuse me. The Rules Committee has met twice thus far. We've scheduled 2 more meetings before the March meeting, one on February 29th and the next one on March 11th. That's a Thursday and a Monday. At this point, I've been very pleased and impressed. So many people on that committee know what they're doing, knows the right questions. I mean, trying to work together to seek solutions. I mean, it's gone very smoothly, in my opinion, at this point in time. Of course, we haven't tackled the elephant in the room yet, but we've been, we've been kind of shadow boxing leading up to it. At our last meeting, there was Dr. Bill made 4 recommendations in a letter back last September, and the committee was in favor of the first 3, with a couple of questions to be answered by Dr. Bill down the road, and one recommendation for a change. The first of his recommendation was to recognize that the MAG, the modeled available groundwater, should not be used as a permitting factor, since it's not consistent with managing groundwater production to achieve the desired future condition. In essence, he was saying the MAG has been somewhat unreliable over the years, and he wanted that part changed. The committee agreed. His second recommendation was splitting the permit applications into what he called large and small. Arbitrarily, anything over 100 would require the effect on the spring, some detailed testing before it was approved. In other words, the well would have to be drilled, monitored for a year, and then before final approval. His cutoff on the 100 was arbitrary. There were a couple of the Rules Committee members that had experience over in the Castroville area, and felt that 100, and I haven't spoken to Dr. Bill since that meeting, but his contention, what I understood from him when I called him last, was that 100 acre feet or less, the effect on the spring would be negligible. And that's why he said, we need to do away with the testing on them. In other words, make it easier for someone to get a smaller permit. The folks that had experience out east of here said that with the subdivisions moving out of San Antonio, that could be misused. And they recommended dropping the 100 to 50. I have not run that by Dr. Bill, but other than that, the committee was in favor of that recommendation. His excuse me, his number 2. His recommendation number 3, I guess Marty's burden, for lack of anything else, was now that we have her, going out to the wells, he wanted to let's see, the high impact, high priority wells, he wanted to monitor at least monthly. What he called medium priority, medium impact. By impact, we didn't get to ask him, but we assume he meant on the spring, every other month, and then the smaller ones, a minimum of once a year. Again, the committee was generally in favor of that. Procedurally, we're going to flesh out some of these things, get it together, have the committee have a final look, probably from Greg, our attorney, and Dr. Bill, and then the committee will say yay or nay. If they're the way I set the committee up, it's not like a vote or something. Everybody will have a voice. I mean, if there's one person that objects to something, then they are going to be free to submit their own report. Everything will eventually come back to the board, and the board will, pick and choose and do something or not do something. Ultimately, it's the board, but everybody on that committee, I mean, hypothetically, we could have 14 different reports. I stressed to them that, in an ideal world, we're going to all come together somewhere in the middle on a compromise that would enhance the odds of the board, in my opinion, doing something about them. I can't speak for the board, nor will I. But if the committee can come to an agreement, I think that would enhance, getting it enacted through our. And of course, there's a whole procedure there. I'm not even know. I mean, public hearings, public comments, blah blah blah. But the committee is moving along smartly, in my opinion. What we set up for our next couple of meetings, and this gets into his recommendation, number 4, is what has loosely been referred to as a drought contingency plan. What are the triggers, opinions of different people about what should be done? Do we split it by zone? There's certain parts of the county that according to Dr. Bill, have little to no impact on the spring. There are parts that have a greater impact. So the committee henceforth will start struggling with trying to come up with something along those lines, what it should be, what zones, etc. So that's where it stands for now. Our next meeting, like I said, is 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow night. And then on Monday, March 11th, prior to the next board meeting on Wednesday, March 13th. Yes, ma'am.
May I ask you? When you're talking about the 50 acre feet cutoff, I assume that's for permits for any beneficial use, whether it's agriculture or commercial. As long as it's below that amount and it's a beneficial use, it will not require a hearing and a test permit. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, no, seriously. I mean,
know. I'm just saying that because
it's my fault. The terminology, I'm new.
That's why I mention it, to clarify it, because you can't discriminate. If it's a beneficial use, you can't treat one differently than the other. If under the law it's considered a beneficial use, whether it's commercial, agricultural, wildlife, it's all beneficial use. So you just need to, I think, clarify that it's any beneficial use, which is what I think what our rules say.
There was at least thus far there's been no discussion along those lines.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning that so that you might clarify that.
Yeah. It's all. I mean, right now everything is on the table there, and certainly before we do anything, we're going to run it by the attorney and Dr. Bill to make sure that we're not in the ditch somewhere. Part of the committee, Vic from Uvalde, he and Janelle, they're the ones kind of keeping us, out of the ditches in terms of, regulation and whatnot because of their experience. And, but what you're talking about, absolutely.
That's just a little detail.
Should be and will be brought up, but the phrase beneficial use hasn't come up yet.
Well, you might mention that to them because, that's in chapter 36 of the Water Code. But I want them to understand that you have to treat any beneficial use the same under the law.
Right.
Okay.
No, and I get that. There are court cases on that.
I know. I just thought the committee may not understand that. A lot of people don't.
And maybe it's just a problem with terminology. I don't remember that specific term. Anyway,
And one other comment I'd just like to add, when you're talking about the monitoring zones, all of our historic permits, it designates which aquifer they are in. So we have some that are designated as Edwards, some Edwards Trinity, and some Austin Chalk. So I would think each one of those would probably be a different management zone according to which aquifer they're in. I didn't know if you realized that, each permit has the aquifer listed on it.
I didn't realize it on the permit, but in terms of setting it up, yes. I mean, that, that was discussed. I mean, in other words, it's not going to be a district-wide, this is it. Because, they're different, the science is different depending on where you are within the district.
Where you are in the depth also makes a difference.
And on those zones.
And that point was not brought up, but depth, I will add that to my list.
And on the zones that Dr. Bill has now, he hadn't recognized any of the faulting, and that's why y'all bought that new program, is to recognize the faulting. And that'll change, once that faulting is in there, you'll see the Edwards and the Edwards Trinity and the Austin Chalk start matching what our permits say. That's what was real confusing about his report, is when he had that all in zone 1, it's Edwards Trinity, and Austin Chalk, and that's how the permits are delineated. And I think that will help y'all a whole lot in your managing of the aquifer on those zones. And
I've watched the
I made a
videos.
note. I'll run that by.
Okay.
I've enjoyed watching the videos of y'all's meetings. I think they're very informative. You've done a good job trying to keep everybody out of the ditch.
Yeah.
So has Dick.
Only because I have experience being there myself. But no, seriously, thank you.
The zones are the biggest help to keep you out of the ditch. Those management zones will be the biggest help you have to keep you out of the ditch.
But I will run.
I don't know if you know that this might help you too. When you're talking about MAG, managed available groundwater, the district so in the early part of the district, we permitted before we got MAGs. And so the district had already permitted, and so it was real confusing we were both on the district at that time. So I agree with his statement, but when the MAG came out, don't get confused and think we permitted up to the MAG. That wasn't what happened. No. It was permitted, and then we got the MAG. And so we provided Dr. Bill at that time what had been permitted in the past, and he ran the best model he could with that data. And I really appreciate y'all buying all this equipment, because it helps so much dispel all the fears that we have as irrigators, because you will know what the science is. And we all live and die by the science. We understand that.
Thank you. And I made a note of that. I'll try to run it by him. And like I said, our rules committee thing, apparently it was posted somewhere. I mean, I'll clean up better next time. I didn't know I was, no, feel free. I mean, there's no comment at these rules thing. Doesn't mean that you can't talk to somebody on the thing. I mean, the district has my contact info. I do not. Some of the people don't want to be contacted. I want to get this right.
And we want the district to survive too. We don't want to ever be at cross purposes either, because you get into, let's say, maybe this will help. We're in the same aquifer per se. And if I can dry him up, and I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So we all have to work together, even within those zones. And it's important to us that it's all right, because we can hurt each other, and we don't want to do that either.
Anyway, we're rolling. We took care of what I call the low hanging fruit, and now we're addressing the biggie. And the goal would be to have something worked out. I mean, my goal is the April meeting. I don't think the next 2 meetings will do it, but we'll have 2 more we'll have 4 meetings of the committee between now and the April meeting, and I would think at that time we'd have something at least to give to Greg and Dr. Bill to flesh out, the legal or science side of it to present to the board. So it's, we're moving. We'll get there quickly. Any other questions or anything?
I have a question. what is your rush? I mean, this is an important thing. Why does it have to be so quickly?
It doesn't have to be. There's really not a reason that it can't be. But if there is a reason to have to be, is because my impression, I've only been on the board a little over a year, there's frustration in the community, on all sides of this issue. And it's like the old joke, tell me the rules, I'll play the game. And, things are kind of up in the air, just the monitoring and stuff, and we've come so far in a year. Better information for, the science and so forth. So there's no deadline, but it's been the community, a significant percentage of the community, at least judged by my phone call, feels like it's been long enough, and we need to move forward. So that's not a specific deadline, but that is one of the reasons. And you've worked with committees before. Good Lord, I mean, if you don't push them, they'll take a year. I mean, God forbid if we had free food and drinks, the committee would meet forever. So,
I've always been of a belief, Charlie, anything worth doing is worth doing right and taking your time.
We're not taking shortcuts.
And that's how I've always done my business,
No, there are no shortcuts in this. There's a push, but there's no shortcut.
The rules too can move along, and you can get what scares us most is the drought contingency plan, because you put faulty triggers in and it keeps us from farming, and it's not doing anything to if you can't prove we're hurting you, why hurt us? That's what we're afraid of. If you can't prove we're hurting you, why are you hurting us? And that's what we're the most afraid. And it's the drought contingency plan that scares me the most.
Well, and
I don't want the spring to dry up either. Don't get me wrong.
No. We all, we all want to farm. We all want the spring. I mean, late prays for rain. I think there's probably a better spokesman, but still, we'll take what we can.
There's lots
we're not going to push through something just to get it pushed through. Number one, and two, on that, we had a lengthy discussion on the trigger thing and the timing of it. Right. I mean, I married into a family of dirt farmers. I like to call them. I mean, I'm from West Texas, so farming was dirty work compared to ranching, but still, it's kind of like dogs and cats. But we irrigated a lot. Say in May. Right. Trying to get the corn so we could harvest it into June, 1st of July. Right. Well, clearly whatever drought management plan has to take in consideration the timing. Right. I mean, you can't jump up May 1st and say, oh, it's triggered, so you're out. No, because then you've already spent all the money on the fertilizer, the seeds, the plowing, blah blah blah.
And two, we finance. When we buy land, it's a 30-year note. And so we go to the bank and we finance a 30-year note to buy farm. Yeah. And then you go and you finance the crops. Well, if you can't get, the bank doesn't understand if you miss one of those because you don't have water. So that's taking it, cutting back pumping takes away the permit just as much as taking away the permit if it's not.
There was a lot of discussion about the timing. Right. And, are you proactive on the drought contingency thing, or are you reactive? Right. If you're reactive, then you're going to mess people up because they've already spent the money. They're already, But if you're proactive, you come in and say, January 1st, and say, look, this is how much water you have to work with this year, and maybe you do crop B instead of crop A, and I'm making numbers up, because you've got, 4 acre feet instead of 7 acre feet. But then we get the rain in the spring. Okay, well, then it goes, then you can get out of it. So it's not an on-off switch, because you have to let people plan. Right. You have to.
You have to let people plan, and you also have to consider all the data that's brought into the district. When we got our permits, we hired a hydrologist. We know a lot of stuff that that hasn't been put in those models yet. And so we're looking forward to Dr. Bill being able to put some of that stuff. The faulting in the models will help you a lot.
And as
The
you pointed
faulting
out
in
a
the
while
models
ago,
will help you a lot.
we're gonna live and die by the science. I mean, I mean, whatever we do, it has to be science-based, or therefore it can be challenged. And nobody wants that. So if we base it on the science, I mean, personally, lawsuits don't scare me. I mean, not at all. In the business we're in over in East Texas, I mean, the last time we had nothing going in a court, I'm talking about my wife and I, was in the 90s. I don't mean the 1890s, but the 1990s. But lawsuits don't scare me if you win. And if we base it on the science and so forth, and bring it on, we'll get our attorney's fees back. But it has to be reasonable. It cannot be arbitrary. It has to be based on the science, and that's what we're trying to shoot for.
That's all we're.
Yeah.
How are y'all going to handle some of those that are on that committee that put false information out on social media?
I am not aware of what you're talking about. I don't do social media, so I haven't seen it.
Is there stuff out?
There has been, and I'm just asking, if they continue to do that, last week?
Can you give me an example?
Well, last week, Bill Conley put on there again. No, it wasn't. I don't remember if it was him. But Dee Dee Stark and Will Conley have been putting this false information about a 25,000 acre lease of water in the community, which is false information. This is all this.
That's what's triggering a bunch of this. That we're trying to 25,000 acre feet to Laredo, and it's 20 years old.
Yes, it's all false information.
This is an interesting fact, y'all.
I've heard nothing of this. So
well, that's why I'm asking y'all. What are y'all going to do about this?
Well, free speech and all that. All you counter false information with true information. I mean, you can't shut somebody up.
So there was we had a big hearing here in when we were on the board. A big group was going to market water out. Basically, it would kill the springs up in Grass Valley.
To the rest of the road.
And we had to have a big hearing over that was brought on by the previous board. And I just want to say this is sometimes when things get said, it just kills us because we worked really hard to keep the district going when we were on it. And Lloyd Davis did a wonderful job. And he recused himself from that hearing because the permit was going to be right across the road from him. And it was what was going to Laredo. And he recused himself, and he hired a lawyer, and he was the one that protested that permit. And the board denied that permit. Had it not been for Lloyd recusing himself and protesting that permit, you wouldn't even have a spring because, you have to follow the procedures. And if the hearing report would have come out and Lloyd hadn't protested, the board doesn't have much choice at that point. So, when she said that he worked awfully hard as president of the board, and the county owes Lloyd a whole lot for doing that. Out of his own pocket, he protested that permit. And that's what the Laredo permit's about.
I just don't feel like y'all should have people on that committee that are going to be putting false information out.
Again, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, so should I bring it to your attention when it's on there?
Whom are you speaking of? I mean,
I just told you, Will Conley.
He's not on there.
Will's not on the committee.
And what about
David?
David's on.
David's on there.
Yeah,
but that's not Will.
And
that's not Will.
You're right. But
I mean,
will.
David has been, in my opinion, a benefit to the committee because he's a lawyer. I mean, he's taking notes. I mean, he's seeing things in the verbiage, bringing up points that us lay people sometimes don't think of. But he hadn't put out anything false. He hadn't put out anything to speak of that I'm aware of, other than.
And Gage Brown.
Pardon me?
Gage Brown. She's been part of that, putting that out there.
Again, I've not seen it. I mean, Gage is on the committee, but at least when she's on the committee, there's none of that going on. None of it.
Okay.
And you're welcome to sit in on this committee meeting. They're not required to be open, but under the Open Meeting Act, the committee can meet in private. But we've chosen to do it publicly. We've chosen to let somebody film it and put it on if they want to. But none of that has come up in committee, and I can't help what goes on outside. In committee, all we can do is present science and facts to the best of our knowledge. And if science, I know it's not according to some people nationally. Science is never settled. There can be different opinions, and fine. If there's fault stuff like that, a Laredo permit, is that what you called it?
The city of Laredo has put it on their website that they're interested in water in Kinney County, but it's from, I think Wes said 20 years ago. So
I mean, the stuff like that
So
is easily shot down. So
Is this permit deal still going on? Is it an ongoing deal?
No.
So they're just bringing it up?
They're bringing it up to cause trouble.
Yeah.
then
All right.
ignore it. I mean, know that it's false. I mean, we're not considered.
We wouldn't be even having a committee if they weren't raising all that and telling false information.
I don't know about that, but according to Dr. Bill and Greg, there's certain things that that committee needs to do, the board needs to do, but that's not.
And why did you do that? Why did you start this committee?
Because Dr. Bill and Greg said we need to do A, B, C, D, and we're doing it.
That has nothing to do with everybody from Lost Moor Springs complaining and stuff.
They're citizens too. People are entitled to an opinion and so forth. We're trying to do something, we're trying to come together as a committee, as a community, and, base it on science and the law and follow that. That's all we can do. General Manager report. Excuse me. Huh?
I thought of something else that was just briefly mentioned at the meeting I was in. Like if someone is it was just briefly mentioned, I'm sure I know it'll come up again. If someone is in the middle of a crop,
Well, that's what we talk about, the timing.
Yes, the
If you're in the
timing.
middle of the crop, I mean, I mean,
You can't just say no.
yeah, I
Right.
mean, allowance has to be made for all of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Otherwise, I mean, if we shut off water in the middle of a crop, we're liable. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, financially, morally, legally, whatever.
We appreciate you sharing. It's tough.
And I think we can listen too, and I really appreciate you being open. We can listen too, and if we hear something we don't agree with, we'll tell you next meeting or say, we didn't agree with that, and I think that's the way it works. I think that's good.
If y'all hear the negative or whatever from whoever, and they're putting out false information, let us know.
That's the only reason. Sometimes when we stop, we don't want to bring up past history to bring up past history as one time on the board, somebody brought up the past and Greg Ellis said, "That's mea culpa." And I don't know why, but I just started singing the fruitcake song from Jimmy Buffett, and I said, but sometimes y'all do need to know what went on. Not as to beat other people up or say we were better than them or whatever. It's just if you don't know the history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so that's all we're trying to say is if I stop you and I want to tell you something, it's not to cut somebody down, but I want you to understand some of the rules. We changed the hearing process from when we went through getting permits because it was horrible. They let people testify that shouldn't have testified. So when we had a hearing, we had a huge permit hearing. We hired a lawyer, recused ourselves, got out of the room. The hearing went on, and then we voted on a hearing report because we wanted to remove ourselves from it because it's so costly from the district's standpoint to be wrong or to have hearings. So we wanted a process that wasn't too expensive didn't hurt anybody, but there's a lot of that in the rules too that.
Well, again,
From time to time.
I think, Janelle, is my contact information on the website?
Your email us.
Yeah.
It is? Let me know.
Yeah,
I mean, some people don't like to be disturbed about this, but between meetings, and I'm not saying I like it, I look at it as that's part of the job. So let me know, and I'll look into it.
There.
Thank you, Director Gaines. Moving on to item number 11, General Manager's Report.
Okay. During the last month, starting in December and through starting 1st of January, I guess, all of the permitted wells, with the exception of one, have had a physical on-site inspection on every one of them. The only one we've not been able to get in touch with one of the property owners. We've not made contact with him yet. But aside from that, all the others have been taken a lot of time, many hours, but every permitted well has been inspected. With you mentioned, or somebody mentioned, we've got our logo on there, the well number on there. We've taken pictures, a picture of the meter, a stand back picture, and I'll have to credit Marty. She got her feet wet in a hurry. going out to the different places. The other thing, the pump reports for, I think we just have 2 or 3 maybe that haven't turned in pump reports. So they have come in very good. We know that a couple of them are in the mail to us. And then as far as paying, we've got like maybe 2 or 3. One of those is in the mail. We know the lady happens to live in Florida, and we had one that was from up in the Fort Worth area several weeks ago, and hers was mailed whenever, and we just got it last week. So, it just takes, we all know how the mail service is. But everything has gone along very well. We've found some interesting things in the on-site inspections, and the difference in the GPS, what's in our records versus on the ground looking at it, there's been some difference in that. So we're getting that's something that we're getting cleared up, which is good for all of us, I think, as far as the physical location. The last TAG meeting, was a couple of weeks going Round Rock. They had in conjunction with that, they had an aquifer boot camp, which they have these boot camps periodically. You zeroed in on one thing. I did send Marty I had signed up to go, but I went ahead and sent Marty particularly because of just for her to get her feet wet on the meetings, the things that go on, and the information, but particularly this information on the aquifers. And, just good information, I think, that she came back with. GMA 7 has not set their next meeting yet. I think it will probably be in, I don't know, mid to late March, first part of April is when they're next. Now that's the part, GMA 7 is the one that meets in Sonora. That's the western part of the area that we're in. GMA 10 will be meeting again next month. I don't recall the exact date. Region J will be meeting on the 23rd of this month in Kerrville. I'll be going to that meeting. Aside from that, we have, quite a few things come in periodically. Just, I shouldn't call it members, constituents, if you will, at random with questions about different things that send us an email. What about this or that? Between Bonnie and I both would pretty much field those questions. And one's coming in the office wanting information on different things, or maybe even a permit holder that wants to come in, they don't remember something, they want to come in and sit down here at the board table and look through their file, which is perfectly acceptable. But when someone's doing that, we're kind of with them. Not that we don't trust anybody, but we wouldn't want something accidentally removed from a file. So that's about all I have to report. If anybody has any questions.
Moving on to item 12, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Director James. Is that Martello second? Motion passes, we're closed. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Good.